I'm Rex McMillan, Vice President of Product Management. I work on our UEM platform, which includes everything from discovery, MDM, to how we manage with agents. Great to be with you guys. And, as I like to tell everybody, I really don't know anything. I just know how to listen to all you guys. So most of the things I've done is because Nick or one of you guys has told me to do it. So thank you guys very much for being our customers and working with us. As we looked at what we would talk about in discovery is a critical piece. It's one of those pieces to me that you can talk to people and they say, I've already solved it. I thought I had solved it probably 5 times in my life. So now if you ever ask me if I've solved discovery, I'm going to tell you, no, I have not. And I'll tell you why, because I know something's going to change. So as we look at what's going on in the market, I always like to set market expectations a little bit of like some of the thought processes. Because if we agree on my base thought processes, then we're going to be kind of headed in the same common direction. So if I'm wrong in any of these, tell me I'm wrong. But I see that security is a big deal. It's now not just it used to be part of IT, then we got CISOs, and now it's a board level conversation. It's everywhere. But the problem is if we talk about discovery separate, then manage and discover, they'll never get anywhere. I believe it was Nick and Bo who called me once and said, hey, I have a customer. They told me they'll buy patch if I can improve their patching percentage. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. And then they said, but they're already at like 90%. What do you think is going to happen? And I'm like, sweet, just go in and they're using a patch product that's not tied to discovery. Just go discover all the new machines and their patch percentage is going to go way down. Having security and this tied together. Supply chains, new business models. The day I went to the McDonald's, I don't do that very often. My wife's a really good cook, so I don't do that very often. But I go into McDonald's and there's a kiosk, there's no cashier. I will confess, every time I go to McDonald's, I end up with 2 Cokes. I cannot order correctly. I don't know if it's on accident or if the McDonald's just knows me. But we see devices appearing in every location. At one point in time, I visited a company. As we went to this company and I got there, they're a company who delivers airplane parts. That's how I thought of them. But when I walked in, they had a sign that says, we're a technology company. And they build themselves as a technology company. And as I looked at their environment and I saw the things they're doing, we saw devices appearing everywhere, shipping floors, weighing, every place, wallboards. Technology was every place in that workplace. And that's really what's happening. Business models are changing. Whether or not people have all changed their signage, that company was very advanced and had great people coaching them. But we're all technology companies. As technologists and IT, we're the ones pushing and enabling the businesses to change. So we talk about work from home. I'm the one that had to change. I kept going to the office after COVID and after lockdown. I still went to the office every day. Finally, after like a month of being the only guy in the office, the facility sent me a letter and they're like, yeah, our office is actually closed. And I'm like, yeah, but I like my office. My desk is really set up. Then I moved home. So now I rarely go to the office. So I'm pretty habitual there. But as we look at it, everybody stayed productive, but it's not all good news. Unsecured networks, data loss, credential problems, it's all still occurring. And we have to understand what's going on in our environment. That's an important part of our story. As we look at the growth of devices, everybody working from everywhere, discovery becomes more and more critical from every point. So I want to take you on a little bit of a journey here of how we got to discovery and how we think of discovery and help you. So as you look at the different pieces of technology, it might make more sense of like, hey, this is why and how we built them. This number of 30% of IT assets are unaccounted for. If you're not running a passive discovery and don't have the right discovery technology, this is super common. This is an industry analyst statistic. The first time I ever heard it, we were at an interchange event in Melbourne. And when a customer got up and he's like, I ran a SCCM environment. We were super solid. He put out his SCCM statistics on the board, and I'm just sitting there going, these are all EPM customers in the thing, and you're showing your SCCM statistics. I'm just waiting to see where this goes. And he's like, this is how good I was. These are my statistics. This is what it is. He clicks to the next slide, and he says, I finally agreed to a POC, and they turned on passive discovery. I found out I was really good on what I knew about. I was missing 30%. And then I started chuckling. I was like, oh, I've been there. The day we turned on passive discovery, as a PM, we travel sometimes. We turned it on, went out to a company, we enabled it, and we enabled it in a bunch of subnets. And I'm like, hey, this is going to be really good. See you tomorrow. I went back and, ate that dinner. When you're traveling alone, they put you in the corner, and it's kind of like you have the plague. The waitress comes like once, survived all that, showed up the next morning, came in, and the receptionist let me into the office. And then I was there. Then in an hour, I went out and said, hey, I'm still here. I'm alive. And they're like, yeah, we know. I'm like, what did I do? I turned on passive discovery last night. Turns out we found 30% more machines than they knew about. They do drug testing now. Little awkward conversations were occurring in another room. Their accounting was not very happy. The drug testing people weren't very happy. They were trying to decide if the tests they had running were invalidated because they hadn't actually reported all the assets on their network. They actually didn't care to talk to me any longer. They came in about noon, so I figured that out, got on the Wi-Fi, and just did work for the next few hours. They came in about noon, and we took the next steps to help them get their environment under control. So that 30% is really real. Well, we combine all that together, and we start to look at, there's three main areas that we think we have to discover. One is endpoints. We got all these endpoints that go everywhere. How do we get a full comprehensive discovery of our endpoints? Number two is our servers. Now, I tried really hard. I came up with 12 words to type there, and I feel like server is absolutely inadequate. So Mike, my buddy, I apologize. I know it's not the right word. I just ran out of what to put. It's your data center. It's your processing capacity. It is your AWS. It's your cloud environments. It's where your processing power is on the back end. I just put server because it's kind of that server workload. It left me one word to think about and talk about, but it's much bigger than just your servers. And then there's an external view. Have you ever thought about how you look to the external world as an IT department? So if you had no access and just said, hey, I'm going to go look at what my business looks like from an external view, what do you look like? Well, how much information can be found? Anybody ever tried that? How many assets do you think you can find about your business if you take an external look, zero credentials, and just go scan your business? How many assets do you think you represent on the internet? It's a lot more than you're guessing if you've never tried that. Because you have DNS records, you have certificates, you have access points, web services, forgotten web services. All of those are exposed. And so there's an external view of how do I look? And that's how you look to a hacker. They don't look at you from the inside. They look at you from the outside. I don't have any credentials, but I want to know everything about this business. They're going to do an external scan. So we'll talk a little bit about external scan and why we want that external view of what we are. So who cares? There's a lot of stakeholders as we start talking about. When I talked about that drug testing company, they weren't just an IT staff in the room. They had accounting in there, procurement was in there. They were trying to figure out where these devices came from. Accounting was upset they hadn't been writing them down, that they weren't reported on their taxes, which I guess affected their federal grants. So it turned out that there was a lot of stakeholders in that room. I got to walk past that room. I just put a little smile on my face, released place, and ran past to go to the restroom because I didn't want to look in there and be caught and interrogated. And we have an asset manager. We hope we have an asset manager. We don't always, sometimes that's still a maturing industry. So I said earlier, I thought I'd solved discovery numerous times in my life. I'll tell you a few stories about the history of discovery. So back when Nick and I both had hair, we started out with discovery. And discovery was, let's run the ping sweep. Let's do Nmap. Let's do some SNMP. And we know everything that's in the network. So we ran that way for a few years, and we were pretty good at it. And I don't know how many of you have children, but if you walk in the house and yell, "Hey," and you try to get one of the children to respond, it's like a crapshoot, maybe. I'd like to say it's 50-50, but it's probably not that good. So over time, active sweeps became really ineffective. I figured out how to lock my box down. My box doesn't respond to anything like that. I went to a little company, they're a US government provider. I had to turn my laptop on. I snapped it in. I plugged their network cable into it, and they turned the little egg counter over. Because they told me if I had to turn my laptop on while I was there, they were going to wipe my hard drive when I left. I got to that point, so I turned my laptop on, plugged the cable in, knowing full well they're going to wipe my hard drive. It's just the course of the nature of the job. They turned the egg counter over, and I said, "What's the egg counter?" And they said, "Well, that's usually how long it takes security to show up that an unknown device is on the network, to put a tag on it so that it can't leave the building." I'm like, sweet. Well, the egg counter expired. They turned it back over. After about 4 or 5 times, they said, maybe he's at lunch. He never came. They were using active technology. I stayed on their environment all day. They never caught me. So everybody's figured out how to lock their boxes down. A rogue device is not going to respond to active. So we figured out we needed to do passive discovery. So we have agents everywhere. We build out a sniffer. We put that sniffer as part of our agent, and we're super excited. Like, hey, we got this passive technology. It's part of the agent. We're going to now be able to watch for ARP requests, DHCP packets. We're going to know everybody that's on that subnet, because I'll put it out on every subnet with my agents. And this is fantastic. Super excited about it. Go to the FDA place. It works fantastic. We're finding 30% more devices every place. And then we have a security issue at one of our customers. And they call me. I get on the plane. I go to their environment. They tell me how bad it is. Very much meetings I don't love to have with you guys. But they're real. Things happen. They had an internal hacker that was attacking them. And they're like, we need to know where the machine is. I'm like, fantastic. We'll turn on passive discovery. We'll know by the end of the night. We'll know when he turns that box on. We'll know exactly where it's at. And the guy looked at me and he said, Rex, your passive discovery might be good. I'll never use it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but as a PM, that's about as mean of things as you get to say to me. I'm like, little tears, like, why? And he's like, I have 4,000 subnets. It's not manageable in my environment. This is impossible. You've added an entire FTE role to my IT staff just to solve passive discovery. What were you thinking? Put my little head down in shame. We fixed their problem. I went home and I got the dev team and I said, here's the problem. They got 4,000 subnets. They need passive discovery, and it has to be fully dynamic. And we can't cause network traffic. It's got to be silent. We got to be super smooth and slick at this. Well, took a lot of head scratching. People went around. Somebody stumbled onto this paper called Swim. Then somebody actually went to an Uber conference, and they talked about Lollipop. And Lollipop and Swim were like, I'm sitting with the architects and like, check this out. We got this really cool stuff, Lollipop and Swim. And I'm like, this is crazy talk. And then they explained a gossip-based protocol. Does anybody know how fast gossip spreads in the neighborhood? Well, you can gossip with computers. And all I have to do is get a set of secrets and have that computer tell his secret and 7 other secrets to another guy. And as long as they do this on a regular basis and totally random, everybody knows everything really, really quick with almost no packets. That becomes what we refer to as our client self-electing platform. Client self-electing platform, the secrets they share is, am I alive? What's my score? Am I elected? And then I have a few more bits to put other cool things in. So with 8 little bytes, I can tell it a whole bunch of data. And now I can elect somebody to be in charge of passive discovery. So all you have to do is say, I want passive discovery. We elect a representative and it's up and running. You don't have to do anything. Now, if that rep goes away, somebody else takes over. That little gossip-based protocol, they say, hey, I tried to talk to the rep. He didn't respond. Obviously, he's gone. We need to know. They'll gossip really quickly. Guy with the highest score, he takes over. We score them on how often they reboot, how many NICs they have, what OS they are, a few items that really help us know. We're able to, over a few days, we'll end up on a box that only reboots once in a while and becomes the rep and stays the rep. Works out super well. So at that point, I'm like, sweet, I now have discovery solved. You can turn on passive discovery and we know everything about your world. And then Nick points out, Rex, I never go on your network. I'm not in the office. I don't connect. Sometimes I VPN, but not very often. So I'm back to the drawing board. I haven't solved discovery again. I'm still broken. So now I'm like, okay, how am I going to catch Nick? Well, I know Nick uses services, web services. So we go out and we started building out connectors. Now I can connect to third parties and pull in additional data. As soon as we start doing this, very quickly you realize there's data at third parties that's not on the device itself. You can't ask my box, when's your warranty expire? It doesn't know. Third parties do. So now we start building out these connectors and we start augmenting the data. I think I'm good again. I got to quit confusing myself. And we had all that in APM. And then we started looking at cloud and how can we do visibility and what's that? And we're like, we'll pick all that discovery up and we'll take that over. And then real quickly, we realized we wanted to do a lot more. So now we have a reconciliation engine so we can build out actionable discovery. So inside there, in a relational database, every one time those things came in, they had to look for a spot where they can exist. Hey, warranty date? There's only one warranty date. It's a relational database. I put in the warranty data. Well, what if I have conflicting information? Last one in wins. Well, that didn't work. So as we build it out in the cloud, we said, we need to be able to, and I'm going to show you a diagram in a minute, hold that thought of how our reconciliation and normalization works. And I'm going to have a whole slide so we can talk through it because it's one of the most cool pieces that's confusing to the whole world. I think I'm not confused about it, but who knows? And then I think we're good. And then I think Nick and Danny and a few people came and they're like, Rex, so you got endpoints pretty good and you do servers, but you kind of suck. Like you don't tell me what a service is. You don't describe out in the data center what our business owners really care about. And our business owners don't care about a specific server in the data center. That's just not what they care about. They care about the connection of attributes that it takes to provide a service. And at that point, we went out and started looking at how we were going to divide service mapping. And so we offer today, there's a booth upstairs of service mapping. If you haven't played with it, haven't tested it, it's super phenomenal. We actually OEM it from partners. The amount of technology that there is amazing. They've done a great job. And we were able to, with our connector strategy, just bring that in. We didn't have to rebuild it. We were able to extend, and now we have that data that's required for part number 2, which is external. So now we've got endpoints or server. Now we got endpoints, we got servers. Now we only just have to worry about that third place of the external. So right over here on the end, you see that I'm worried about risk, vulnerabilities, what that external view of my world is. So that's my history as we've gone through discovery. Hopefully that helps you kind of have, as you're playing with discovery, it kind of helps you have some of the views of how and why we got here. Now, from a capability viewpoint, these are some of the goals that we always set for ourselves. Discovery has to be continual. It can't be a snapshot in time. It has to happen all the time. So as we set our goals across this, these are some of the reasons why we do it. We knew it had to be continual. We knew it has to be extended. It has to reconcile out and have the full capability. And it has to handle all the different OSs that are sustainable out there. So active, passive, and connectors is what we've built out to help us handle endpoints. We've talked about some of the strategies there, how we built them, why we do that. Now, do I do every kind of active discovery? No. I know there's a lot more capabilities that I can extend there. We have roadmaps that we will continue to extend in active. We do SNMP scanning. We put MIBs in. There's a lot more I can do with the MIBs. There's a lot of fun in there, but that's because we know there's IT, OT, IoT, and printers that require those types of things. It's not a data center play a lot of times in this active. It's things that are just being thrown on the network. We know that nobody in IT ever brings in that random little cool device and hooks it up, but they all happen. Passive discovery, it works really well, does a lot of really good things, but I still have to answer the random question once in a while. I had somebody call me and they questioned the results that they were seeing. They're like, here, let me show you. Here's an item. You say it's in my network and you don't have any data about it. Here's an IP address. Here's a MAC address. Basically, you don't have anything out about this device. I took the MAC address. I dissected the MAC address. It was a new device. It wasn't in my database of MAC address to vendor mapping. It is now, but it turned out to be a LiftMaster garage door opener. The team down at the warehouse had a garage door opener die. They replaced it, got that new commercial LiftMaster, and they've got MyQ on them. It's fantastic. My garage has one of those, and it's fantastic. I know when my kids are in the garage getting my good stuff. But in an IT world, that's really scary because now I have this new attack point of a MyQ device being attached. I didn't have any data about it. So we're continually looking in the passive of how to extend those databases of matching and finding records, because I've got a Bosch dishwasher that kicked my butt a while back, a MyQ LiftMaster. Those things are leaking their way into your enterprises. I hate to say it, but people bring them in and then they hook them to the Wi-Fi because it's cool. And they have risk. And connectors, we have a lot of connectors. We're continually building additional connectors. We're taking you guys' feedback out on ideas. I'm counting the votes all the time. Most of the time, what I'm looking for is somebody that'll partner with me, because even though I can look at the APIs, without data there, it's really hard to know, did I get that connector right? So if you have a connector you're really interested in and you're willing to partner with my development team, that's how I'm building out connectors. And we have a team working on those every day, all the time. So the connectors, we are using them to augment everything from warranty to connections to finding device, finding users, and really being able to give you that complete view of what your enterprise is and where your data is going and what's being used on side of that. Now, once we find all of that data, we recognize really quickly we had to do some normalization and cleansing. So when data comes in, we have a list of a set of attributes that we rename for you. Microsoft, anybody know how many ways Microsoft spells their name? My current count's 43. There's 43 different ways that I have found Microsoft in their different things. There's Microsoft, Microsoft Inc., Microsoft Inc. LLC. I swear it's just how the developer felt like typing it. There's 43 ways. I normalize that all to Microsoft Corporation. So when you do reporting, when you look at it, it's nice and clean. That's what we do with our normalization rules. We have a whole set of them. We watch for those types of things, and that comes in. That's not exposed to you guys. It's hidden in the back end. Maybe someday I'm going to expose that so you guys can look at it and add to it, and I can take your additions and I don't have to keep doing it. We'll see. The next one is reconciliation. So here's my data services view. Okay. So as we decide we're going to build this new technology, I know this is probably not the most beautiful slide you've ever looked at, but I hope I can make it make sense for you. So as we decide we're building it out, in a relational database, if I had a connector pull in warranty data, it would write in the warranty data space. And then if somebody else pulled in warranty data, they would write in the warranty data space. Last one in, that's what you get back in the UI. Well, we didn't want to be there. We wanted to be able to have all the data and be able to load that data on demand. So we made a NoSQL database. Now we store the inventory in documents. So if an inventory comes in, if Nick hands me an inventory record about a device, I just take that document and I stick it in the database. If I get one from CrowdStrike, I take that and I stick it in the database. So you can see connector 1, connector 2, connector 3, connector 4. I have the data from every connector sitting in the database. Now I have to have a master document. The master document says all these child documents reconcile to this one machine. So now I have a master document. He says, I know every document that relates to my machine. Now, if I have a connector and Nick sends me a record, I create a new machine, and then later I get some data and I can see that device, I'll merge those master records and say, hey, this is really one machine. So we can update and maintain this. So in the database, behind the scenes, I have the document for every connector that's there. We're never writing over data. Now I have a problem with what do I show in the UI, right? Because I might have, in the past, I only had one warranty record because I just kept writing it over it. Now I might have warranty 5 ways. What do I show you? So I go to the master record. When we want to display, we have a load order. And we start with the least reliable source possible in our mind. And we say, what's the warranty date? 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 And we just ask every record down what the warranty date is. And in theory, we're going to start with least reliable and go to most reliable. The last guy to give me a record, that's what I show you. So it's a load order on all that data. So all the data's there. Nothing's been deleted. If you know how to hit the APIs, you can actually query and get it. I'll expose it in the UI pretty soon. So you'll be able to load and say, hey, from this connector, show me exactly what came in. From this connector, show me what came in. Now we're showing you an aggregated view. So that's how our database in data services works today. All right, so that's how data services works. Our goal is to make sure that we have that, and I've always called it single pane of glass, source of truth. I'm going to start changing my wording, just so you know, Nick. I'm going to start calling it the single data source. That everybody needs to work from the same data source. I'm not sure that everybody's going to be in the same pane of glass, but if they're all working from the same data source, now we're all making the same decisions. It's actually reconciled out and give you the ability to query across that. Inside of all that, we have inventory. Software is a big component of what we have to collect. We collect it in multiple ways. We collect, I was thinking there was one more slide, but I deleted it in the essence of time. We collect add remove programs, we collect the MSI database, and we collect every executable that runs, who ran it, and how long it runs for. And that's all buried in that inventory attribute in the details of that. If you go look in there, you'll find things like uninstall keys, you'll find the GUIDs that were installed, files that are associated with those installs. All that's in the details of the inventory. So with that, we're going to kind of talk about our service mapping capability here. So as we started, it was Nick and Denny and a few of them came and started pressing of, we got to solve that server issue. It very quickly became, it's not a server issue, it's a service issue. And so we set a set of requirements of hey, it needs to be automated. It's got to be fast. It's got to be always up to date. It can't bring the problems that I caused way back when of another full-time head to just manage service mapping. How can we make service mapping really become automatic? We bring it in, scan that, and we build out those communication paths that lets you understand what's going on there. We need to be able to have that deep asset discovery. We need to know, hey, we don't want to just know it connected to a SQL server. We need to know it collected to a SQL server that's part of a SQL cluster that's running on this SAM. Now we can actually get to that visual impact. Let's see the chain. So when Nick says, hey, I want to patch server A, what's the impact of patching server A? We want to be able to look and see that. We want to make sure that it's pattern driven, that we can really see and understand all of those pieces of it. So that's the neurons for service mapping. Neurons for service mapping, it's a full accurate CMDB from that server side, build out so you can understand and you can see all the different types of assets, whether it's Apache, the certificates, the Cisco boxes, the SAN level, lots of great technology, and it's super easy to deploy. When we see customers out using this, it's fantastic. So benefits here, realistically, there is a massive set of benefits in having service mapping. I like to say it's impact and change analysis, but it goes a lot further than that. It's the configuration management, it's the CIs of this. As we talk about risks and compliance, it's really hard to say I understand risk and compliance without a service map of what services are being delivered on those boxes. So service mapping, critical to everything from operations to risk to the inventory capabilities. Service mapping, a critical component of what we have. And this is some of the maps that look, when it's tied in, you can see there, we have the ability right on the service map to say, is there an open change? Is there an incident? Is the change completed? It ties into an ITAM or an ITSM and really gives you visibility that's phenomenal. And all of the app dependencies, the flows are built right into service mapping. So this is my server view. And then that third view that we talk about is the external attack surface. So this is, how does a hacker view me? That's the simplest way I know how to describe it. Without credentials, what can I know about your environment? It's a little scary when you actually first time see this. We can know everything from what your assets are, to what risks, to even what exposures are there. That can all be scanned, found, and reported out to you. We just released, you saw Sri talking about external attack surface management. That released today. We're really excited about what it is. We have to give it a seed. So we go in and we say, here's a domain name, here's a certificate, here's a starting point. I want you to scan from that and tell me what you find. With that, we find and we pull out, we find all the assets, we find the vulnerabilities, and we start to tell you which vulnerabilities and which assets are available. We really have three views we're here. We have the insights, all the charts and dashboards that you can take and lay on the table and say, here's our concerns, here's all the assets we have. One of the people that we know might be a large kind of a sport type of place. They ran some promotion, something like a March Madness. To do that, they spun up new servers, they ran that, and then they just never shut it off. And they did that every year. When we scanned their environment, we found 5 years worth of servers that were running March Madness brackets. No idea, never been touched. 5-year-old OSs, 5 years of vulnerabilities, direct access from those in. So having an external view of your world is super critical. We work on insights. We give you an exposure view. Here's the risks. Here's the exposure. Give you the ability to drill in. You can understand what the risk, what type of exposure that is. Does it have RCP? Does it have RPE capabilities? Where can you go from it? This all plays into our big picture of, you can see down here, vulnerability scanners, discovery, feeding into that chasm world or the virtual vulnerability scan the augmentation of all of the data that you have in, so we can feed it into an RVBM to give you a prioritized risk rate of what you need to work on your environment. So discovery, server mapping, and external really help us be able to get to that complete view. Our roadmap is to give you a virtual vulnerability scan of your complete world, of everything that's coming inside of that. To do that, we're going to be able to bring that all together. You will see, those of you that are using Discovery and Neurons and have a connector to a Rapid7 or Tenable, Qualys, you're going to see a new view called Exposures on Every Device.